The engine of my truck roared as I pulled into the driveway, the weight of 30 years behind the wheel pressing on me like a second skin. I come home early before, but this time felt different. There was no text, no phone call to let Emily know I was on my way. I wanted to see my family as they truly were, not the polished version they put on when they knew I was coming. The sun hung low, casting a tired gold over the yard I'd mowed every weekend since we bought this place. The boys' bikes leaned crooked against the garage. The porch light was already on, even though it wasn't dusk yet. Something about that felt wrong. As I stepped up the front steps, I heard music thumping through the door. Some old love song Emily used to play back when we were still young, before routine and road dust filled the space between us. Her favorite perfume hit me before I even turned the handle. That spicy floral scent she only wore when she wanted to impress someone. My boots hit the floor with weight as I stepped inside. The living room lights were on, casting long shadows against the wall. And there they were, Emily and my brother Tyler. She stood near the stereo, her back to me, laughing, wearing a red dress I hadn't seen in years. Not since our anniversary in Charleston. Tyler leaned on the edge of the couch, beer in hand, his shirt halfway unbuttoned like he owned the place. "What's this?" I said, voice low but sharp, like a blade just pulled from the whetstone. They froze. Tyler looked like a boy caught stealing smokes from Dad's drawer. Emily's body stiffened, and she turned slowly, like the air had gone thick around her. Her smile vanished the moment she saw me. "Roy, you're early," she stammered, smoothing the sides of her dress. "I live here," I said. No reason to announce myself. Tyler straightened up, cleared his throat, and tried to act casual. "Hey man, just dropping something off for Em. She needed." "You don't live here." I cut him off. "So why are you standing in my house with a beer like it's yours?" Emily stepped forward like she was about to explain it all away with one of those sweet-voiced lies I used to fall for. "Roy, honey, don't blow this out of proportion. Tyler just what? Happened to drop by looking like he's headed to a goddamn date? You dressed up for him?" I gestured at her neckline. "Funny. Never wore that dress for me anymore. Not in years." The silence was the answer. I looked between them. No shouting. No fists. Just that cold clarity that settles in when the truth hits so hard you stop feeling it right away. "How long?" I asked. Emily blinked. "What? How long's this been going on?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tyler took a step back, like the truth might swing and hit him if he got too close to me. "You know what?" I said, walking past them. I picked up the picture frame from the mantel, me, Emily, the boys, a 4th of July cookout 3 years back. We looked happy, normal. It made me sick. I put it face down on the table. "I'll ask one more time," I said, turning to face them. "How long?" Emily's lips trembled. "We never meant." "That's not a number," I snapped. Tyler muttered, 6 years. Emily whipped toward him, eyes wide. "Tyler, don't bother," I said, heading for the door. "Don't lie to cover lies." I didn't slam it, just walked out, letting it close soft behind me. In the truck, I sat with my hands on the wheel, knuckles white. I didn't cry, couldn't. Something colder had moved in. Something old and sharp I'd buried years ago under duty and silence. 30 years of miles. 30 years of birthdays missed, trucks fixed, and money sent home. And she was playing house with my brother. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew one thing for damn sure. They weren't going to write the ending to my story. Not anymore. The next morning, the house felt like a stranger's home. Emily was gone when I woke up. No note, no message, just silence, and a faint trace of her perfume on the sheets. The boys, Jason and Caleb, were still sleeping, 12 and 10. Good kids, or so I thought. I poured black coffee into a chipped mug and sat at the table staring out the window, watching the wind move through the oak tree. A trucker learns how to feel when something ain't right. The weight behind a lie, the shift in a voice. That sixth sense had screamed at me last night, and it hadn't gone quiet since. I remembered the curve of Jason's jaw, the way Caleb's nose turned up, not like mine, not like my old man's, Not like anyone in my line. I'd shrugged that stuff off before. All kinds of men raise kids who don't look like them. But now, couldn't let it slide. I went online and ordered 2 DNA kits. Simple ones. Swab and send. Told the boys it was for a school genealogy project. They didn't question it, just followed my instructions like it was a game. When the packages came back, I waited until I was parked in the lot behind the old feed store. No cameras, no traffic, just gravel and wind. I peeled the envelope open, hands like stone. The words didn't hit like thunder. They hit like silence. Probability of paternity 0%. For both. Both. My hands shook, but I didn't drop the papers. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat there, in my truck, alone. 30 years on the road. 2 bad knees. A busted shoulder that never healed right after that wreck outside Amarillo. Every dime I ever made went into that house. Those boys, their football camps, their damn Christmas mornings, and not a drop of me in either of them. It all started lining up like taillights in the dark. Emily's cold shoulder, the excuses, the way Tyler always showed up with birthday gifts that were too perfect. 6 years, he said. But those boys, they'd been his the whole time. That wasn't a mistake. That was theft. A full-blown con. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my hands cramped. The engine ticked in the heat. I carried that family like a mule for 15 years straight. Every load, every sacrifice. And they were smiling in my house, built on my back, with my brother's blood running through the veins of the boys I kissed goodnight. I could have driven straight into a wall, but I didn't. I just sat there and let the anger simmer. Not wild, not reckless, controlled, focused. There was power in knowing the truth, and I'd make damn sure they felt every ounce of it. I folded the papers, tucked them in the glove box, and started the engine. It was time to take my house and my story back. I waited until Sunday morning, the kind of quiet that only shows up in a small town when the church bells are ringing and half the neighborhood's dressed in their cleanest shirts. I knew Emily and Tyler wouldn't be at service. Snakes don't pray. They showed up around 10, like they still had the right to come and go from my home. Emily had a grocery bag in one hand, her phone in the other. Tyler walked behind her like some casual helper. Not the man who'd spent over a decade pretending my kids were his secret. I was sitting at the kitchen table when they walked in. The DNA papers were spread out in front of me. Coffee mug, my old buck knife beside it, clean and folded. Just for emphasis. Emily stopped short. "Roy, what are you doing here?" "Having a seat in the house I pay for," I said, eyes still on the paper. "You forget which one of us owns this place?" Tyler's face twitched. "We thought you were gone." I looked up, slow and calm. "Yeah, you thought wrong." Emily set the bag down. "We just came to pick up a few things. You don't live here anymore." She blinked. "Excuse me?" I slid the DNA reports across the table. "Read it. Out loud if you want." Tyler moved first, eyes scanning the results. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Just a dumb, guilty expression like a boy caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Again. Emily didn't even pick it up, just stared at me. "Roy, this doesn't change anything. You raised them. You're their father." I stood, not fast, not loud, just enough to make the space between us feel colder. "You lied to me every damn day for 12 years, Em. I thought those boys were mine. I sacrificed for them. I worked for them. I bled for them. I know." "No, you don't know. You can't know. Because if you did, you wouldn't have let that man," I pointed straight at Tyler, "put his feet under my table, sleep in my bed, raised his sons in my house while I was out on the road killing myself to feed everyone." Tyler tried to speak. "Roy, shut your mouth," I said, voice like gravel. "You had every chance in the world to come clean. You're not a man, you're a parasite." Emily stepped forward. Hands out like that would soften the blow. "We didn't plan it this way. It just happened. You were always gone. I was lonely." You were lonely?" I laughed once. "You think I wasn't lonely on those highways? You think I liked missing birthdays and baseball games? so you could have a warm house and a stocked fridge. She started to cry. I didn't flinch. Pack your bags, I said. Both of you. Roy, you can't just. I can. And I am. You don't live here anymore. The locks are getting changed today. You'll get a letter from my lawyer tomorrow. Don't come back. You can't keep the boys from us, Tyler snapped. I stepped forward, toe-to-toe with him now. They're not your boys. They're not mine either. Not anymore. They're innocent in this, but you're dead to me. Emily sobbed into her hands. Tyler stared at the floor. I opened the front door. The air outside was clean, brighter. Get out. They left, bags in hand. No more words. I watched them walk to the car. No anger in my chest, just clarity, like a man who finally cut loose the weight he'd been dragging for miles. When the door shut behind me, I looked around the house. Same walls, same furniture, but it finally felt like mine again. And this time it was going to stay that way. Dan Whitaker had been drawing up divorce papers in this town longer than I'd been hauling freight, and his office still smelled like pipe smoke and lemonwood polish. He didn't smile when I walked in, just nodded like a man who knew what kind of weight I was carrying. Roy, he said, waving me into the cracked leather chair. I heard some noise around town. You all right? I set the folder down on his desk. No, but I'm focused. He opened it. DNA results. A short written account I typed up at 3 a.m. while staring at the ceiling fan in a house that felt too quiet. Dan read through it, slow and deliberate, his gray eyebrows tightening like storm clouds over his glasses. Well, he finally said, closing the file. I've seen worse. Not by much, but I've seen it. I want them both gone. For good, I said. And I want my house. My name. I want full custody. I raised those boys. I fed them, held them when they were sick. I was their father before I knew I wasn't. Dan leaned back. Problem is, Roy, the law doesn't care about what feels right. Legally speaking, you are the father. You signed the birth certificates. You paid for them. That puts you on the hook. I nodded. And Tyler? Dan shook his head. If he pushes, he can petition for paternity rights. He's the biological father. The court might grant him shared custody if he demands it. It's a long shot, but it happens. Even after lying, sneaking behind my back. Dan sighed. This isn't about morality. It's about proof. And unfortunately, DNA trumps everything if he wants to fight. I stared out the window at the dusty courthouse square. I didn't speak for a long minute. Roy, Dan said, tapping his pen, if you want to protect those boys, you've got two options. Either make peace with Tyler and settle, or dig in and prepare for war. But know this, if it goes public, it gets ugly. And ugly courts don't favor working men. I looked at him flat. I've been in ugly places before. Never back down. Not starting now. Dan nodded slowly. Then we build a case. We don't scream. We document. Every lie. Every dollar. Every move. I stood, gripping the back of the chair. I'm not looking for revenge, Dan. I'm looking for justice. He raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about that? I paused. Let that settle. Maybe a little revenge, too, I said. Outside, the sky had gone overcast. The air had that heavy, still quality before a summer storm. I climbed into my truck and just sat there for a minute, engine off, door open, listening to the wind shift. Justice was blind, but it sure as hell wasn't fair. And if I wanted the truth to win, I couldn't fight like a husband. I had to fight like a man with nothing left to lose. I pulled out a notepad, wrote 3 names at the top: Emily, Tyler, Jason, and Caleb. Then I drew a line underneath and started writing everything I remembered. Every time she lied, every time he showed up, every bank deposit, every offhand comment. Every night I'd come home and something had felt off. This wasn't about rage anymore. This was about legacy. I wasn't going to let a liar and a coward rewrite the story of who I was. Not in this town. Not to those boys. They'd built a house of cards on my back. Time to pull the foundation out from under it. It was almost poetic, Emily and Tyler had picked the one neighborhood in town with the least amount of trees and the most amount of glass. Big bay windows, pristine lawn, newly poured concrete stamped like stone. They called it a fresh start. I called it a stage. Their housewarming party was set for Saturday. Half the town had been invited, co-workers, old friends, and a few fools who probably knew the truth but kept showing up for the free booze. I parked my truck 4 blocks away, behind a grocery store. Walking back to it just before sunset, the ball cap pulled low, hands steady. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't raging. I wasn't even nervous. The tires had just been rotated. Brakes checked. No weapons in the vehicle. No alcohol in my blood. I'd spent a week laying the foundation, even had Dan review the insurance paperwork and DMV registration. My license was clean. No violations in over a decade. Everything looked accidental, just not from the inside. By 6:45, the party was in full swing. I could hear the laughter from down the street. Music thumped from outdoor speakers. Tyler's truck was parked out front, crooked like it always had been, as if lines didn't apply to him. I turned the ignition. The engine of my Dodge growled as I came around the bend. Slow at first, just rolling. Headlights off. Windows down. The breeze smelled like barbecue and fake happiness. And then I floored it. The truck screamed up the street, tires screaming like a war cry. At the last second, I yanked the wheel, slamming both feet on the brake. The truck skidded sideways into their yard, tearing up freshly laid sod. A folding table went flying. Guests scattered like birds, drinks spilling. Someone screamed. I let the front bumper stop exactly 18 inches from their new wraparound porch. Silence. I turned off the engine, stepped out slowly. I looked around like I didn't understand what had just happened. Emily came running down the steps, heels in one hand, phone in the other. "What the hell are you doing, Roy?" I kept my voice calm. Thought the brakes were fine. Guess I was wrong. "You could have killed someone." "Didn't, though." Tyler came stomping forward, face red, hands clenched. "You son of a bitch." "Careful," I said quietly. "Plenty of witnesses here." He stopped like I'd pulled a leash. "I already called the cops," Emily spat. "You're going to jail for this." I nodded. "Let them come. Everything's insured." And I wasn't speeding, check the tire marks. Brakes gave out. "You want to sue me over an accident, go ahead. But remember, you invited people onto your property. Unsafe conditions. A lot of things can be argued in court." They didn't say much after that. When the sheriff pulled up 10 minutes later, I was sitting on the tailgate, sipping a water bottle, arms relaxed. He looked at the yard, the skid marks, the lack of injuries. "Lost control?" he asked. "Looks like it," I said. "Didn't hit a thing." Emily tried to scream. Tyler cursed. The sheriff just took notes, shrugged, and filed an incident report. No crime, no citations. That night, I watched from down the street as a tow truck pulled my Dodge from their yard. Their perfect new life now had a permanent set of tire tracks carved through the middle of it. Message delivered. They'd spent years making me feel like a ghost in my own home. Now it was their turn to feel haunted. They filed the restraining order 2 days later. Emily's petition was full of the usual crap. Unhinged behavior, threats, a dangerous display of aggression. She even claimed I was obsessively stalking her family and had anger management issues stemming from years on the road. Classic projection. Dan slid the documents across his desk and leaned back. "They're playing scared. That stunt you pulled? It rattled them. Now they're trying to box you in before you swing again." "I'm not worried," I said. "Let them come first. Just gives me a reason to hit back harder." Dan smiled. "Then let's hit them where it counts." The court hearing was set for Friday. Small claims building, 2nd floor. Cheap carpet and uncomfortable chairs. Emily showed up with Tyler and some slick young lawyer out of Louisville. The guy looked like he had more hair product than spine. I wore my cleanest boots, pressed jeans, and a white button-up. No tie, no apologies, just quiet confidence. Dan carried the real ammo, 3 thick folders and a thumb drive that would put the truth up on a screen if the judge needed pictures. Emily took the stand first. Her voice quivered in all the right places. He drove his truck at us. He's unpredictable. I'm scared for my children. She had tears, yes, but no bruises, no police charges, just a shaky voice and a talent for storytelling. Then came our turn. Dan stood slowly, like a man who enjoyed every second of a slow bleed. Your Honor, we have reason to believe this restraining order is not about safety. It's a tactical move to gain leverage in an upcoming custody battle. The petitioner is attempting to paint my client as unstable, but we have substantial evidence suggesting otherwise. He opened the first folder. Exhibit A, Financial Statements. Mr. Tyler Walker has multiple outstanding debts related to gambling, including payments to known illegal bookmakers in Jefferson County. Attached are credit reports, text messages, and a signed affidavit from a former bookie. Emily froze. Tyler blinked like someone turned off the lights. Exhibit B, photographs and timestamps showing Mr. Tyler Walker at the marital home at inappropriate hours, months before separation. This includes surveillance footage of him entering and exiting while Mr. Roy Walker was out of town for work. Gasps echoed in the small courtroom. Exhibit C, emails and bank records showing joint misuse of marital funds, including the use of a shared account to cover Tyler's gambling debts without Mr. Walker's knowledge. Dan leaned forward, voice calm and clear. Your Honor, my client is not a danger. He is the victim. What happened on their lawn was not an attack. It was a calculated, staged protest. And the response was to attempt legal silencing, not reconciliation. The judge, a wiry old man with a long nose and thick glasses, tapped the folder with a pen. I'll need time to review this, but the temporary order is denied. No further restrictions unless new evidence arises. He looked at Emily. Next time you come into my court with a list of feelings and no proof, be ready to answer for it. Tyler stood and stormed out. Emily followed a few steps behind, trying to act composed. Dan packed up the files and gave me a long look. That's one round. We just won it. Now you stay calm, stay visible, and stay sharp. They'll come apart on their own. We're just giving them the cracks. As we walked out into the sunlit parking lot, I spotted Emily across the street. She looked at me like I was the ghost of her mistakes. I didn't smile. I didn't nod. I just got in my truck and drove away. Free man, clean slate, and the upper hand. The war was far from over, but I just won the first real battle. There's something about small towns, news travels faster than reason. After the court hearing, I didn't show anger. I didn't throw punches or raise my voice in public. I did something worse. I smiled. The kind that makes people uneasy. The kind that makes gossips whisper. He knows something. I kept things quiet. Went back to coaching Little League. Showed up at the hardware store like usual. Even started helping out at the local food pantry on weekends. Folks saw me stacking canned beans and figured I'd moved on. That's how I wanted it. Because behind the scenes, I had Dan's investigator running down everything Tyler touched. Turned out Tyler wasn't just a liar and a gambler, he was also broke. He'd been using Emily's accounts to prop up a facade. Fake business invoices, forged W-2s. Even tried to show he was self-employed as a consultant, when in truth, he hadn't filed real income in 3 years. The man was living on borrowed time and stolen checks. And Emily? She still clung to the fantasy that they were going to make this new life work. She posted happy little updates online. Pictures of the boys, Tyler at the grill, sunsets from their back patio. Meanwhile, the walls were buckling. I had a banker friend flag their joint account. Within weeks, 3 bounced payments, including a mortgage installment. My investigator found a second credit card in Tyler's name, maxed out and tied to an online poker account based in the Philippines. I could have exposed it all in one blow, but I didn't. I let the weight settle first. Instead, I leaked small truths, quiet conversations at the barbershop, emails slipped to Emily's sister, casual lines dropped in front of PDA moms. Funny how Tyler's been home a lot lately. Guess that job offer fell through? Or, you ever notice how Emily's been withdrawing cash in hundreds lately? Not lies, just breadcrumbs. People started doing the rest. By the end of the month, Emily looked haunted at the grocery store. No more smiles. Tyler had stopped showing up at the gym. They canceled the fall birthday bash for Caleb. One morning, I saw Tyler's truck at the pawn shop on Route 3. Later that night, a buddy from the dealership told me Emily came in asking about trading down her SUV. I didn't celebrate. I documented every bounced payment, every overdue notice, every time Tyler signed something he shouldn't have. I put it all in a file labeled Fallout, because that's what was coming. By now, Emily had figured out what I was doing, or at least sensed it. She showed up at my door one night, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking. "Roy," she said, voice cracking, "you're destroying us." I didn't open the screen door. "No," I said. "I'm just showing the world who you really are." Tears ran down her cheeks. "The boys don't understand. They think you hate them." "I don't hate them," I said. "But I'm not lying to them anymore to protect your choices." She opened her mouth to argue. Then I closed it. She left without another word. Back inside, I sat down with a fresh glass of bourbon and pulled the final folder together. Tyler's financial fraud, Emily's co-signatures, hidden bank accounts, fabricated income, screenshots, timestamps, witness statements, everything tied up like a noose. The court date was near, and they were walking right into it, blind and proud. Let them smile for now. Let them pretend it's under control. Because I wasn't going to knock their house down. I was going to let the truth do it for me. The courthouse smelled like dust and printer ink. Third floor, family court. Same pale walls, same buzzing lights. I sat beside Dan at the long wooden bench, hands folded, boots still dusty from the morning's drive. Emily sat across the aisle in a navy dress that didn't fit quite as well as it used to. Her makeup was heavier. Her smile is thinner. Tyler didn't show. Dan leaned over and muttered, "Tyler's attorney withdrew last night. Guess someone told him what's coming." I didn't smile. I just nodded. The judge was the same one who'd shot down the restraining order weeks ago. He didn't like drama. He liked paperwork. And today I had plenty. Dan stood when called and walked the judge through a methodical presentation. Calm, sharp, bullet by bullet. "Your Honor, today we present the final motion for full custody of Jason and Caleb Walker by Mr. Roy Walker, legal father of record, sole financial provider, and consistent parental figure since birth." Emily flinched. "First," Dan began, "we have compiled all financial documents showing that Mr. Tyler Walker, biological father, has no legal income, is under investigation for tax fraud, and is linked to offshore gambling networks via multiple accounts in Emily Walker's name." The judge didn't raise an eyebrow, just flipped through the file, page after damning page. "Second, we have evidence that Ms. Walker was complicit, at minimum negligent, in allowing these financial crimes to be conducted through joint assets, including forged documents tied to their new home loan." He passed the documents to the bailiff. "Third, we have written affidavits from school officials, neighbors, and coaches who all confirm Roy Walker's active and stable presence in the children's lives, including after the separation." He turned toward me. "My client is not seeking vengeance. He is seeking truth, structure, and protection for two boys he's raised as his own since birth." Then Dan stepped back. No show, no raised voice, just the quiet strength of facts. Emily's attorney shuffled to the podium, clearly rattled. "Your Honor, while some of the financial elements may require further investigation, we ask that the court consider the emotional ties the children have with their biological father, Tyler Walker." The judge cut him off. "Who is not here today?" The man stammered. "He had obligations." The judge stared. "Did those obligations include providing for the children he now claims to want custody of?" Silence. The judge closed the file. "Ms. Walker, do you wish to make a statement?" Emily stood, hands clasped in front of her. "Your Honor, I know mistakes were made, but Roy isn't their real father. And Tyler. They're both your mistakes, ma'am," the judge said flatly. "But one man here has acted like a father, while the other's been gambling with someone else's money. These boys deserve stability, not DNA." He set the file down and looked at me. "Mr. Walker, effective immediately, You are granted full legal and physical custody of Jason and Caleb. The court finds that maintaining their home life with you is in their best interest. Ms. Walker may apply for supervised visitation upon financial review and pending further investigation. A final stamp, a sharp crack of the gavel. Done. Emily's hands trembled. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. I didn't gloat. I didn't even look at her. Outside the courthouse, I stood in the breeze and let it wash over me. Dan clapped me on the shoulder. You just gutted them, he said. No, I replied. They gutted themselves. I just made sure the judge saw it. Emily walked out a few minutes later. Alone. She stopped in front of me. You think this makes you better than us? She asked. I looked her in the eyes, no anger now, just clarity. No, but it sure as hell proves I was always better than what you deserved. She turned and walked away. I stood there a while longer, letting the silence settle. The fight was over. Now it was time to bring my boys home. Jason and Caleb came home that Sunday. No fanfare, no speeches, just 2 duffel bags, a pair of quiet hugs, and a lot of unspoken things between us. I didn't ask them about Emily or Tyler. They didn't bring them up. Instead, we cooked steaks, watched the ball game. Jason asked to sit in the truck while I changed the oil. Caleb helped me split wood in the back. Small things, normal things, things I hadn't realized I missed until they were gone. At night, I walked through the house, room by room, same walls, same pictures, but they felt different now. Not haunted, not heavy, just mine again. Out on the porch, I poured a finger of bourbon and sat in my usual chair. The sky was clear, black velvet with stars, the kind of night truckers dream about when the road gets too long. I could hear the boys laughing inside. Something about a video game. Real laughter. Unforced. Honest. And for the first time in years, I let my chest rise without weight. They'd tried to break me, strip me of my name, my legacy, my place in the only family I ever built. But I didn't break. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I stood still, waited, moved when it counted. I'd taken hits, real ones, the kind that makes a man question everything. But I never gave up the wheel. And in the end, that's what saved me. Not the court, not the lawyer, not the paperwork. Me, a man who refused to be rewritten. A man who knew that sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge or swing a hammer. Sometimes it just shows up in the form of truth with receipts. I took one last sip and looked up at the stars. Tomorrow I take the boys fishing. The way I used to before all the lies. They didn't need to know every detail, just that I fought for them, and that I never walked away. Not even when the whole damn world told me to.